Sarah McClanahan has done this research on fatherlessness and found out some fantastic things. And one of the most important things she found out is that fatherlessness causes problems. I've never seen social science research where they talk about something causes this. It's always, well, this is correlated with this. This is correlated with that. No, they're saying fatherlessness causes things. That's incredibly potent. And yet, we know now from the research, it was 2013, I think, from McClanahan research, we know that fatherlessness is causing lots and lots of problems. But we do nothing. All we do is we go after the symptoms. We've got a big fire hose. We try and put out the symptoms. What are the symptoms? Bullying. Guys, help me.
Every single.
Okay, we have a session now on fatherlessness, and I wonder if the three of you could just introduce yourself very briefly. And I know most people know you guys, but just in case there's a few that don't, just very quickly.
I'm Tommy Sotomayor, radio show host to me.
I'm Tom Golden, therapist, run MentorGood.com.
Robert Franklin, member of the board of National Parents Organization and an activist for family fathers and families for 21 papers.
I got the least credentials of you.
Can you speak loudly, please?
No.
When you turn your head to the mic, that was awesome.
No problem.
Tom, I don't know if you can start off, perhaps saying a few things about your knowledge about the impacts of fatherlessness.
Yeah, it's a mess. And that's the best way to start off. Daggone mess.
I was hoping for a bit more.
And we know that it's a mess because of the research. Sarah McClanahan has done this research on fatherlessness and found out some fantastic things. And one of the most important things she found out is that fatherlessness causes problems. I've never seen social science research where they talk about something causes this. It's always, oh, this is correlated with this. This is correlated with that. No, they're saying fatherlessness causes things. That's incredibly potent. And yet, we know now from the research, it was 2013, I think, from McClanahan research, we know that fatherlessness is causing lots and lots of problems. But we do nothing. All we do is we go after the symptoms. We've got a big fire hose. We try and put out the symptoms. What are the symptoms? Bullying. Guys, help me.
Every single thing.
Every one you can think of. And we're spending billions of dollars pointing into that. I'm not doing diddly for getting fathers back in the home. Now, I've been thinking, one of the things we should do is start paying families to have fathers there. You know? Yeah. I mean, why not? It's important to have that happen, to get those fathers in the home. Because otherwise, our culture's falling apart. I call it the man-made plague of fatherlessness. And it is a plague. And we're not doing anything about it. That's enough for me. What do you got to say?
I think it's sad a little bit to me, and let me explain something. You said something that was amazingly powerful. You said some things that were amazingly powerful. Now, if we were in church, if the pastor said one or two things that was amazingly powerful, people would clap. If we were a bunch of women in here, if they said anything that was amazingly powerful, but I think even when we look out here, everybody understands what they're here for. Men are still afraid to be a part of that group that says yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that show us that men, we still, no matter what our racial, ethnic background is, we still fear being men. And you get up every day and you go out to support, protect, provide. And you don't get any type of medal for it. You don't get any type of pat on the back. They don't give you the big piece of chicken anymore.
Hey you! Yes, you! Watching this video. Did you miss out on going to the International Conference on Men's Issues? Or did you go and now you missed the fun times you had at this amazing event? Experience the magic of ICMI 2019 again, or for the very first time, with Honey Badger Radio's ICMI disc set. The disc set brings ICMI presentations together in one convenient package, as well as disc set exclusive Badger bonus content. Enjoy behind-the-scenes Badger interviews with free speech and men's issues luminaries like Sargon, Janice Fiamengo, and Count Dankula, as well as a never-before-seen Badger cartoon. Also available is sparkling ICMI merch, such as our professionally designed program book, sticker sets, badges, and more. Go to feedthebadger.com and claim a piece of men's rights history for yourself.
And when you have a bunch of men who do all the work that they're supposed to do, and they don't get credit for it, and there's nobody there, because you got households like in the black community, but there's no one there to give them credit for being men, namely a father, namely some type of male figure. And that's why you have situations where 80% of all men who are in jail come from fatherless homes. Right? So when you have situations where, just something as simple as ADT will talk about crime rates and all these things like that, but they will not talk about the homes that are mostly hit, and the numbers are astronomical that are hit, where rape happens in them, where just regular break-ins. There's no man there. There are criminals who will tell you that they go by a home and they don't see a man there. That's the house they did it. And yet you will not hear us as a society, us as men, women, or anyone talk about the importance of men. And then you get to fathers. They're the ones who are going to raise, or should raise, the next generation of men. But you don't have that. You have an encouragement by a society that says we only need men as a wallet. He doesn't provide any type of emotional needs for their children. But any girl will tell you who doesn't have her father, one of the main problems she has is picking a man. She picks what her idea of a man is because she didn't know what a man was. We always talk about how boys are impacted by fatherlessness. But we rarely talk about how these girls come up less pregnant in their teenage years because of a father. You rarely see them twerking with their butts out the window and cars driving 100 miles an hour. Maybe that's just my Facebook feed.
I was going to say, I think it's probably...
I'll give you my page when I see it. But the point is, you rarely see a lot of these things. If you could just get fathers in the home, and I really love your idea, because I said that one before. I said, if we are paying women for men to not be in the home, what if we paid them to be in the home? But then you have a government that wants them out of the home, because the government makes money off of that 80% that's in that hotel. You don't have to go to Trivago or Priceline to see if there are any beds available in your local county jail. And that's the problem. We are serving a bunch of people in government that want to take the masculinity out of the home. I said something the other day, and I'll make it short. But if you look at what's going on in society, masculinity is so hated that boys, especially black boys, if they go around and they say they're gay and they're wearing dresses and things like that, they will put them on television. They will put them in front of the world and say, you need to follow that guy. But if they have a female who acts masculine, when's the last time you heard anything from Chaz Bono? When's the last time you heard anything where they pushed a girl that represented some type of masculinity out there? They don't. So they don't even like masculinity anywhere in society. They are trying to drown it out. That's where fatherlessness comes in. You have a society in chaos.
I think we should always remember two salient points. One is that fatherlessness is the single most important social issue we face. And the second, one is that fatherlessness is the public policy of the United States, and that other countries as well. And if you keep those two things in mind, you've got a pretty good handle on fatherlessness. Why is it the most important issue we face? Because the toxic roots of fatherlessness go into every aspect of social life. Crime, violent crime, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, poor academic performance, poor relationships, suicide, prison. It goes on and on and on. And as Tom pointed out, how much money do we spend on this? How much money do we spend trying to put out these fires when the linchpin is fatherlessness? Fatherlessness is public policy. Everywhere you look, in the law and in the practice that social agencies engage in, like Child Protective Services, for example, the policy is separating fathers from children. It happens in divorce court, as we know. It happens with child support. It happens in adoption laws. It happens with paternity fraud. It happens with Child Protective Services. The Golden Institute years ago did a study of Child Protective Services, children's welfare organizations. And when a child is taken from a mother due to abuse or neglect, in over 50% of the cases, they don't even try to locate the father as a placement for the child, even though it's free. You know, if the child ends up with the father, they don't pay the father to take care of the child, but if it ends up in foster care, they do. Again, I can expound at great length on this, but two things. Fatherlessness is the major social problem, and it is public policy.
Indeed.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm pretty happy.
I'd like to take just a second to talk about some of the beautiful things that they know now that fathers do that no one ever knew before. You know, here's one. Fathers teach empathy to children. It's the fathers that teach empathy. Not everybody thinks, oh, it's the mothers. They're sweet. They're good with the kids. No, it's the fathers. And how do they do it? By setting limits. The fathers set the limit. They say, the kid says, Daddy, I want ice cream. No ice cream till you eat your broccoli. Oh, Daddy, ice cream. No ice cream till you eat your broccoli. This goes on and on and on until the kid figures out, he's not going to back down. So they eat the broccoli. So Dad says, okay, good, have the ice cream. Now, what happened there? What happened, the researchers are saying, is the kids learn how to see the world through someone else's eyes. They had to see the world through the father's eyes for that thing to happen. And it's this whole experience of seeing the world through someone else's eyes that's the rudiment of empathy. That's where empathy comes from fathers setting limits. Can you believe it? Look at what's happened to our world with empathy. I think now it's almost 40% of school-age children are not living with their fathers. And guess what else they found? You know, you'd think that as fatherlessness goes up, empathy would go down. That's exactly what they found. The research is showing that empathy is dropping. They did this study with college students, and in the last, I think, 40 years, it's gone down 40% empathy. Just unbelievable. So fathers are so critical. They do things automatically that people have no idea that it's helpful. You know, throwing kids up in the air. Man, I remember when my kids were little, I'd throw them way up in the air, my wife would go, don't do that. Right? You seen that before? You guys have all done it. It's what we do. They now know that throwing kids up in the air ends up helping the children learn how to take risks when they're older. Fathers are important. They're critical. They're needed every day, and when we don't have them, we're screwed.
Fathers are not just male mothers. They parent differently. They have different attachments to their kids. They form those attachments differently. So, for example, as Tom was suggesting, one of the things that fathers do occurs. That teaches the kid the type of, that it has an impact in the world, and that it can affect others, and that it can cause others pain. And that's boundaries. No, you don't do that. You know? Again, it goes on, and the things that fathers enhance in children and teach children are different from what mothers do. They are neither more nor less valuable than what mothers teach or impart. But fathers and mothers parent in a complementary fashion. When you take one away, you're just left with one instead of two.
Right. And you can look in the black community and see what fatherlessness has done, especially when it comes to empathy. And when I talk about this on the show, people look at me like I'm crazy. I say, well, the stats show in the black community, the most violent places in the United States have little to no fathers there. But you'd assume that these places would be a utopia, right? Because it's all those soft women raising these children, right? Right. And let me explain to you how, because of what I'm on the home for, and he told me to come. He said, my job is to explain how evil women are. When you look in these situations, you look on the news every day, you see a bunch of chicks on train, buses, wherever it is, they're fighting. They're always beating on some guy, no matter what it is. Or they're always beating on themselves. The most violent relationships in the United States are not male on male. They're female on female. Lesbians. The most violent. Now you got these women who are raising these little boys in these communities, and what they're doing is teaching them this when they're young. The little boy watches mom go into a store, sees a guy that she doesn't like, or he did something wrong, and he sees him slap that guy. The boy sits there and just wait. Nothing happens to mom. Mom goes into the store and argues with a bunch of people. Everybody calms himself. Boy says, I guess that's how society works now.
There you go.
So his little male friend says something he doesn't like in school. His first response is to hit him instead of to work it out. So his father there. His father will teach you, son, if you hit him, he can hit you back, and he may hit a little bit harder than you. All he saw was mother slapping and get away with it. Right? When you have father, their father says you must learn how to negotiate verbally with someone. Father says, screw that, I'm upset. Mother has all kinds of excuses. It's that time of the month. You know I'm emotional. That's why I stabbed you. You know, right here. I'm walking off. Women even have excuses, and I'm not saying it's not clinically true, but just look at it this way. Women can say, well, I killed all 5 of my kids. Why? Is the question they always ask. When's the last time a man killed his children and they said, I wonder what was going on in his life? Exactly. Everything that men do, there are repercussions for it, and when you do not have a father in the house, the kid starts to think there are no repercussions. You know? So if nothing else, if we do not believe that fathers are important, you have to understand what they were saying, which is teach there's that empathy and responsibility and accountability.
Yeah. And what Robert was talking about with the rough and tumble play, you know, is the fathers will do that. They'll be rough with the kids, right? And so the kids learn when they do certain things. Dad says, no, don't pull the hair, or no, don't poke my eye. They learn how to differentiate between what's fun, what's enjoyable, and what's aggressive and what's not acceptable. And again, it's this boundary thing that the kids learn from Dad because he sticks with it. But they have fun together. You know, they have a good time. They throw each other around. Man, I remember this one teacher who used to, this one class of special ed students. He couldn't really do anything. Nothing. Until finally one day, they were in this, it was like a stage with sofas and things. And one kid came up, he was a huge guy, 6'4". Kid came up and grabbed him, tried to pull him. Took the kid and threw him off the couch, you know. All the kids wanted to do that. they attacked them. There was like 10 of these little kids, right? And he took them one by one, boom, 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 boom. This teacher could not do one thing to get those kids to do their work. But after that day, he said, "You want to go rumble? Get your homework done." They got their work done. They got it done because they wanted to go rumble with Randy, and that's what they called it. Our kids need this. They need this contact. They need men to throw them around in a safe way.
Yeah.
But no, you can't do that. You can't even play at recess. You know, no dodgeball. You know, no this, no that. It's crazy.
Sorry, guys. We're halfway through this session. I wonder if we could now take questions from the audience. Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Hey guys, that was pretty enlightening on that violence and the moms. Never thought about that one. I'm going to chew on that for a bit. But this is something I've had going in my head for a little bit, and I want to know what you guys think about it. My thesis is that, okay, boys don't even know fathers. So that means girls don't know fathers. So hence, in universities, the rape culture that we have, the work environment feminized, they don't know fathers, so hence they don't know how to act around a man, and they don't know what a man acts like. So hence sexual harassment, rape culture, it's because these girls don't know what a real man is. So if they understood what a real man was, that he is sexual, that he'll make little jokes, they wouldn't be so immune to it, they wouldn't be so affected by it, and they'd get it. Does that make sense, and what do you think?
I don't believe in rape culture. I've done it several times. It's just BS. Really, I believe what you're saying, but it's just BS. It's just something else to make men feel bad about being men. Every time we wake up, every time we turn on the television, everything is aimed at trying to beat you down.
But they think it. That's the point, though. They think it. I agree.
Well, I don't even think they think it. I think what happens is, just like children, what happens is if you let someone get away with something, they're going to continue to push the boundaries. The majority of women are only pushing the boundaries because they're seeing other women get away with it.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you can get away with saying that I raped you and I never met you, and my job in this country where it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty has now become I got to prove that I didn't do what you said with no evidence, that's where we are.
That's where we are. But, you know, rape culture is an absurd concept. And what it is it's an exercise, it's an enhancement of female power over men. I mean, it is that simple. But I think you're right. And again, it's the empathy thing that a girl who grows up with a father is going to be less likely to use that power against a man that society gives her. It's as old as humanity. If you give power to a person, any person, there is a chance that it will be abused, that it will be misused. And so that's why we try to control how much power we give to people, except, of course, in the case of campus rape culture and on and on and on throughout male-female interactions and relations.
Thank you very much.
So I got a question that's like not really popular in a lot of circles. I mean, we used to, you had to prove yourself to be responsible before you could make any kind of decisions with what happened with a larger group, And nowadays we've got this thing where we convince these kids that, at 18 they've got this right to vote and they just barely learned how to dress themselves a couple of years ago. I mean, I'm not even, honestly, they just did, and so then they're like, oh, well, my opinion's really important or whatever, and we even just had an 18-year-old trying to run for Congress, I think, at the last election or something, and, we beat this in everybody's head that, like, voting is this right, and then we just let everybody vote instead of saying, hey, no, you want to tell other people how to live their lives, you need to prove yourself responsible and able to take care of other people and able to make good decisions in your life before we're going to let you tell other people how to live their lives. And so we don't do that. So we've got this huge voting bloc that literally feels entitled to it because we've taught them, hey, you have this right to vote, instead of saying, no, this isn't a right. It's a privilege and you got to earn it. You want to be at the table to be able to talk about how we're going to run society. You're going to have to prove yourself that you're putting in more than you're taking out, and you've done something to show everybody else that we should listen to you, that your voice is worth hearing. And we don't, like, that conversation is just not happening.
Come to the question.
Yeah, so I'm just, like, we all know in this room where this is, how important fathers are and everything, but how do we get from here to somewhere where it's recognized again? You know what I mean? When we're in a minority, that's all, how do we move from here, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, men have to stop fighting men. This is not coming from anywhere else except for you have men watching something happen to men and they say nothing. We watch a man have to pay $100,000 a month on child support on television and we laugh. We're right there with our girlfriends, our wives, or somebody on back page. But the point is, you'll sit there and you'll allow this crap to happen to every man that you see. We'll watch a man get slapped in public and we'll put our heads down. But if that man slaps that woman back, every man jumps up to that woman's defense. That's your problem, sir.
Well, I'll leave it there. Yeah, it's good.
All right, Terrence, PopperDouglas.com, and you brought up something yesterday that I'm thinking along the same lines. I'm a tactical thinker. I did 30 years in the military. My job was to predict and see upcoming threats. And you mentioned yesterday that the black community is the canary in the coal mine. And there's all kinds of pandemonium going on. And mostly it's inner cities, which can be contained. What do you think is going to happen when 70 or plus % of the white population has children born out of wedlock and they're not contained within the inner city?
Can't hear you. Yeah.
It's going to be a shit show.
What's going to be a shit show? We couldn't hear what you said.
Sorry. I should eat the mic. What's going to happen when over 70% of the babies born out of wedlock happen in the white community?
It's already happened.
So it's at 40%.
Yeah, when it gets up to critical mass, well, I guess it's already at critical mass for the nation. Right. But when the larger majority, white people, when they no longer have someone teaching their children who has, as he's saying, more access to more stuff. And they're out there running around instead of in this contained little inner city unit.
Civil war.
And thus I said the shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think there's anything inevitable. The black community has in the past proved to be the canary in the coal mine as far as fatherlessness goes. When Daniel Patrick Moynihan raised the alarm back in the 60s, the out-wedlock birth rate in the black community was under 25%. In the white community today, it's over 25%. So there's that. But I absolutely disagree that this is some sort of an inevitable process. There is a hell of a lot of pushback. For example, among college-educated people, the out-wedlock childbirth rate is 8%. So there's that. I think that we are reaching critical mass about fatherlessness, that the realization about just how important that is, I think is pretty widespread. And in addition, a lot of what we're seeing, that a lot of what's promoting fatherlessness is among elites, not among we the people. We the people are proving ourselves to be far smarter than elites who are pushing certain policy initiatives that promote fatherlessness. That's what I think.
So among the US mass school shooters, I think of the last 28, 26 grew up in fatherless homes. And one of them that we know a lot about because he wrote a massive manifesto was Elliot Rodger. And just a few stories really struck me from that manifesto. One of them was that he was being bullied in school. And so the response by his parents was to move him to another school. And then they moved him again because he was being bullied there. And he ended up in just a kind of special needs school.
Sorry, can you come to a question?
Okay. And The other story that struck me from that was that he then got into this game of World of Warcraft, and I believe he was playing that like every day when he got back home from school and all weekend, and so he was having no social contact with friends. And, you know, it just seemed that he was missing all of this positive engagement with his dad, and just that none of that was happening. So I wanted to get your take on that and to see if you guys had also seen some of the failures in his life from fatherlessness.
Yeah, but it's not just him, it's the people who were bullying him too. Because that can easily be fatherly behavior too. Why? Because men form dominance hierarchies. They do it in school. You know, boys do it in school, and that's what that is. The bullying thing is, you know, I'm tougher than you are.
Well, I want to say a little something about that, though. I think that's a result of fatherlessness, and it goes back to this, handling adversity. If a father's in the home, you can handle adversity. It used to be, if you got your ass kicked, Dad would put you in a boxing class. Right? No father there. Now, mom just sits there and complains and further embarrasses her son when she goes to school and says, "They're beating my boy up." He's like, "Oh, yeah." And that's what happens. So he's learning now not to solve the problem, because that's what men do. Men see a problem. How many of you men in your house, when you see a problem, you say, "Okay, let me try to fix it. Let me fix it. Let me not bitch and moan about it. Let me fix it." Well, you have these little boys who are being told to bitch and moan about it.
And that's what you know, the neurochemistry of fatherhood tells you, is what is going on when fathers father. They're using their neocortex, which is the problem-solving part of the brain. It's higher cognitive function. You know, exactly what you're saying.
The mothers use the limbic, right?
Limbic system, which is emotional processing.
Right. I learned all that at the Comic Club. See, there y'all were tripping. Thought my credentials weren't good enough.
I'll promote you. Good for it.
Just real quick about rape culture. I think girls and women suffer under the lie of rape culture as well, because I think it cripples them, and I think some women even suffer from something like PTSD, even though nothing happens. It's a hysteria. So they're crippled by this feminist lie as well. Now, with fatherlessness, the problem is we can't give these kids fathers back. The damage is done at the moment. We have to work for the future, obviously, to keep fathers in the home. But what we, I think, also need to do, we need to be fathers for kids that grow up without fathers. Yes. So what can we as normal people do, stepping up for kids that grow up without fathers? Can we fill this gap, and how can we do that best?
That's a community thing. When I was younger, it used to be if a child didn't have a father, the neighbor was there, the uncle was there. Right. Right now, men are villainized to the point of most abused children come out of single mother homes. And yet society makes us believe that you must always look out for this man because he's going to rape your kids, he's going to beat your kid, he's going to steal your kid. And so men are villainized even when the numbers show that they're not the ones who are doing the evil. So that's where we used to have a society of men who would step in. Nobody wants to step in now. You don't want to be Sandusky or accused of being like Sandusky. So you just step away and you watch this other kid go down and drink, and you say, "It's not my kid." We have to change the dynamic. We have to change the fact that men are looked at as criminals and evil.
And if you're going to make that commitment to a child, you've got to make that commitment. It can't be an occasional thing. Children seek out male figures. If they've got a father, there it is. If they don't, they look for it someplace else. And if you're going to be that person, you got to be that person. It can't be an occasional every so often thing. And it's a big deal. That's a big commitment.
They had a report from the ISIS, the number one recruiting class that they would go to, the fatherless boys. Same thing with gangs. Right. These gangs don't have like fathers out there cheering their son on for getting jumped into the crypts. It doesn't happen. So they're seeking fathers so much that they're going there. They're going anywhere. They're gravitating towards anywhere where males are.
The last question was the one I wanted to answer. My father was a great father. He was never given credit for it until after he died. When my brothers and I realized that the most important thing in his life was his family. In the schools, there are almost only women. We've known about this for years and years. That is the one place in our society where we have a mandate for a man to give a good example. We need to encourage men to go to schools. We don't need to quota them. We just have to show men that they're fulfilling a really important role. Sports is becoming really tainted now because men are not given the mandate to be real people. And we got to do that. Mark talked yesterday about doing small things. We don't have to make a whole community take care of the kids. We need to do small things so that happens quickly. And I just wanted to encourage you to do that and to help us help other people to do that too. Thank you.
God bless your father.
First of all, I want to say we are men and we want the big piece of chicken. So my question is, what do you think the role of Hollywood is in this? Because when I was a kid, there were Father Knows Best, Make Room for Daddy, My Three Sons. And then in the 80s, there were a lot of programs that had families without fathers. And what do you think the role of Hollywood is in all of this?
It's not just families without fathers, it's fathers are idiots.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Yes. Every one of these fathers are stupid.
Yep. You've gone from fathers know best to fathers a pest. You know, it's like not needed, not wanted.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Beverly Hillbillies. Well, I kind of like that.
Yeah, all fathers now are dumb. I watched Nickelodeon with my daughter one day, and I said, "You can no longer watch that." Dog was blonde, the dad was dumb. Every one of these things, the dad is just an idiot to the point of where the kids know better than him. And there's a show called Hey Jesse, where there's no fathers there at all. 16-year-old, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, they all live in this nice big condo, and there are no parents. Have you ever noticed a lot of what Hollywood does? Even The Lion King, they took out the father pretty damn quick. He got to go.
Okay. Well, I think we need to wrap it up there. I wonder if we could all just show our appreciation